Well, welcome everybody. My name is Katie Pattison. I'm the workshop chair for SCORE Southwest Missouri, and I also manage this branch at Springfield Greene County Library. So we present these workshops in partnership with SCORE, Southwest Missouri SCORE, and the Springfield Greene County Library. One little plug for the library, which is that we do have podcasting equipment at our Midtown branch, which houses our makerspace. So if you, after this, are inspired to get started, but you don't want to invest in equipment quite yet, that's free to use. You can just go on our website, which is thelibrary.org, and or you can call the Midtown branch and make an appointment to go over there to the makerspace. So that's my plug for library resources. If you have any other questions about library resources for business, there are lots of them, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. I always like to just give a little bit of an introduction to SCORE in case you're not familiar. So SCORE is a nationwide nonprofit that serves businesses from idea to exit. There are three things we like to talk about that SCORE does. That's mentoring, resources, and workshops. So if you have not visited the SCORE website, it's score.org. There are lots and lots of resources there. Whatever information you need, you're probably going to have some reliable resources there. We send people there all the time at the library when they have business questions. Mentoring, SCORE offers free business mentors. I think we have at least one mentor in the room. Mackenzie over there is a SCORE mentor. And we have mentors in all kinds of fields, all kinds of specialties, and you actually have access to the network of SCORE mentors nationwide. So if you're starting a business, growing a business, you could use a little advice or a little assistance or a little help pointing to resources. SCORE is there to help you. Everything we do, almost everything we do, is free. Workshops we do like this. Usually in Southwest Missouri, we do about 3 workshops a month. One like this, that's a hybrid workshop. So we have a virtual audience over there, hello virtual audience. And then we do 2 webinars a month, our Tuesdays at 2. So it's usually second and fourth Tuesdays at 2 p.m. for those virtual workshops. And then this one we typically do on the 3rd Tuesday. So you can find all our workshops coming up at swmissouri.score.org. All of those are free. And then the thing that we are super excited about here in our Southwest Missouri SCORE chapter is the SCORE E3 Women's Conference. I think we have at least a few speakers in here. Mackenzie is a speaker, Cassie is a speaker and co-chair of our planning committee. Ariana is the speaker. We have 20 great speakers, 3 really great keynote speakers. It's great networking, really great place to make connections in the Springfield and Southwest Missouri entrepreneurship community. And that is $119 for 2 days, which is like practically just the cost of the food that you would buy anyway. So yeah. It's a really great opportunity. And any of us SCORE volunteers would be happy to help you get signed up for that. That's e3score.org if you want to find out more about that. And I will turn it over to our presenter, Cassie Potts.
Okay, you're going to do some huge introduction for me. I hate doing introductions. No, don't worry. It's okay. I absolutely like when I do Facebook Live in my Facebook group, I usually say, hey, I need you to introduce yourself because I'll watch it. So don't worry. It's okay. Eden is a exhibitor at E3 too. So
that's right.
They're talking about and promoting her business, which is awesome. Congratulations. Okay, so the E3 Women's Conference, I'm not a speaker this year, just so you know, but I have been in the past. Actually, I've talked about this topic. So it seems to be a recurring, interested thing we want to talk about, and I think it's really important because you'll see why it's so like it continues to grow. Okay, can they see my chat?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, they can't.
Okay, well, can you you send?
I'm going to copy your chat.
Can you see my chat?
I can see your chat. You sent it to hosts and panelists.
Well, I tried to not send it to those people, but it wouldn't let me.
I'll send it again.
Okay. And the reason I did, I wanted to ask about the industries we have in the room because I think it applies a lot to what we'll be talking about here because there's just different, I mean, podcasting in general is pretty much all, like the execution is the same, but the marketing may be a little bit different based on your industry. So it's nice for me to know that. And I'm usually pretty like interactive. So having people digitally and in person, just bear with me while I do that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm super excited. And this is something I coined your Audible only audience because I realized that I'm one of those people. If you write a book, if you make a video, if you, well, almost on TikTok, but if you write about it, or if it's a visual something, I won't consume that content. But if it's Audible, I will. And I learned that over time. And I'm like, audiobooks once I realized they were cool, actually. I used to make fun of my aunt listening to audiobooks. But now I love them, and that's how I consume my knowledge, and that's how I get educated, and I love it. It's really hard for me to read anything, but we'll talk about why it's important to do both when you're podcasting. So Ari's like, yeah, we relate. Okay, let me see if I can go forward. Okay, that's backward. Okay, this was working. What the heck? It's okay. You guys, let's. Okay, hold on. We're just gonna do it manually. Let me get my. There we go. Seal it. Quick. Here we go. Easy. Okay, I'm Cassie Potts. I'm the founder of FEM Mastermind. It stands for Female Entrepreneur Mastermind. I'm a business coach and a creative entrepreneur. I'm also a visionary, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This would work. Okay, so let's get personal. This is a lot about me. I should take something else. Things you should know about me just as we go through this program. I'm a mom of three kids. Hi. 3 daughters, and I'm married to an Australian, so everybody is really interested in that. Yes, he does have an accent. and he can talk. Oh, here we go. It's going now. I gotta point it at the right place. Okay. So I'm an extrovert. If you haven't couldn't tell already. It just comes natural. I don't know how I got it. It's just how I am. I'm an Enneagram 7, which is the kind of the cheerleader. If you know anything about Enneagram, that's me in a nutshell. I'm a podcast advocate, of course, and visionary. I don't know. Change that slide. So I have a lot of really great ideas, just not great at always implementing. So just so you know that about me. But this isn't about me. It's about you and what podcasting can do for your small business. And how you can access your Audible only audience. Hello, Michelle. Using podcasts. So I got into podcasts because I just love to consume them. I just think it's really great because it's a very casual environment to connect with people that I kind of look up to in the industries that I'm in. And so I really loved kind of hearing, you ever like heard, you're listening to like a DJ and you finally get to see them in person and you're like, oh my gosh, like, it's so great. I don't know what it is. It's just like a jolt of lightning. You're like, I see you're like, I can see your face. I know I can have this connection. Yeah. So podcasting for me was like, I was following all these people, these very big influencers who were teaching me lots of things. And I was like, I figured out they had podcasts, and it was kind of like backwards version of, I know who they are, but then I listened to them and it was a more intentional and direct like connection to them somehow. So I love podcasts. You guys know what a podcast is. I feel like if you're in this room, you know, but just, you know, boring text, read it if you want. They went through a stumbling age where they kind of fell off the face of the earth, and then they came back, and they'll tell you how they came back with a vengeance here in a minute. It's really nice because these things are so easy to access, you know, now that we have mobile devices. So here's what I'm listening to. We'll talk about this a little bit. Has anybody heard? Okay, so I listen for fun. For self-improvement and business inspiration. And this is another reason that anybody, if you think you can't have a podcast, you're not cool enough to have a podcast, I will argue with you because there's lots of reasons why you could have a podcast. Has anybody listened to Smartless?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you feel about Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean Hayes, but I mean, it's okay. Just listen to it for the intro music alone. I love it so much. It's like, it sticks in your brain. The beauty of this one and why it's fun is because they talk about like just stories of other actors come ups, you know, like Matt Damon had it was really interesting to hear the backside of his story, like very casual. They're all friends. So you hear stuff that you probably wouldn't see on an interview on, you know, late night TV or whatever. So that's one's for fun. Self-improvement, you need therapy. I think it's just really good stuff to like hear and understand how your brain works. And then this one is called Biz Chicks with an X. And that's one I've been listening to over the years. She's got great advice about just women in business, online business. She's mostly service-based focused. So if you're a product-based business, there's ones that are directed towards you, but that one has lots of tips across the board. So what are you listening to? If anybody wants to drop it in the chat, and like Katie, I don't know if you want to read to me, but I would love to hear what you're listening to, because I know you're listening to podcasts, at least, or audiobooks even, if you're not listening to podcasts. All right, James, what are you listening to? She's pointing at you, James, so you have to answer now.
I listen to a bunch of video game developer podcasts.
Yes.
Like Triple Click and a bunch of video game reporters talking about the industry and like
Okay,
consumer rights and stuff like that, and then a bunch of wrestling podcasts.
fantastic. So you're interested in gaming and the industry around gaming, and there's information for you to consume. You're talking about statistics and things like that, like deep stuff, like just not, it's hard, fun gaming, but it's also like a business, right? So that's really cool. And then wrestling. I mean, there's a podcast about wrestling. That's awesome. I mean, of course there is. So that's really cool. So you can find something you're interested in. Katie, what?
Zach says he's listening to Sounds Like a Cult. I've heard of that one. It sounds really good.
Oh, who's the person? Who's
Sounds like a cult.
Sorry, thank you for reminding me to repeat. Zach he says he's listening to Sounds Like a Cult. Interesting. There is a girl who is local who was going to start a podcast about cults, which I think is fascinating, right? So anyway, who else? Did you one?
Yeah.
One more.
So I listen to your discussion.
Yeah.
Zoho and Salesforce.
Zoho and Salesforce. Okay.
Your CRMs.
I'm just saying this loud so they can hear.
Has to do with my.
I know. Yeah.
So that, but then also it's old, but Carrie Tospicchio has an amazing old podcast called The Solopreneur.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love her.
Okay. The Solopreneur by Terry Krajishi.
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like you're going more business related education about your industry, what you're providing as a service to your clients, as well as, some of the other more overcasting or large things. So yeah. Yeah. And I used to always do business related, and that's it. Then I found SmartList, and it's really fun to listen. I realized, oh yeah, I should probably have some fun too. And so I've started to do that a little bit more. Anybody else have one they want to share that's fun to listen to? Oh, what?
I watch the videos that are fun, that are also like their podcasts, but I watch the video side of them.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, I guess it's fun, like visual, but.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. She said for anybody who couldn't hear her, she said for fun, she's more visual. So she likes to watch the videos for fun. And then she listens to, consumes educational information via Audible. Interesting. Yes. Okay, cool. So there's lots of really great podcasts out there that the topics are just everything, and everybody knows like true crime is like huge, and so there's so many ways you can tap into that if you're just creative enough to like have a great idea and then figure out how it works in your marketing. And that's a big piece of this. Don't usually, if you're just doing it for funsies, fine, but if you're here to start a business or start a podcast to improve your business, you need to be very strategic about your topics and the selection of your content, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Okay, so stats, these are fun. Okay. I bring up stats because I think people think, oh, podcast, cool, cute little podcast. No, it's a huge market, huge market. There's 2 million podcasts active. Some of them are not all active. So some of them start and then they kind of fizzle out, and that's normal. But that's a lot of people out there creating content and putting it out there. And that's a lot of content in terms of episodes, like lots of, and I updated this. I updated this podcast or this presentation a couple times, and it's interesting because I've updated this too. So in 2021, as you probably expect during COVID, it shot up. The listenership shot up. It was just crazy. It was like 44 million, and then 120 million. All of a sudden, it was crazy because people had time, and they were consuming more podcasts. So in 2021, it was about 120 million. Podcast listeners. In 2022, we've got about 488. So it's, and I like I said, I went back and I checked these numbers again today, and it was like a million listeners, and that's across the world. But the beauty is, podcasts can reach across the world. So it's not a great reach, just like YouTube and social media. You can reach people that you maybe have never thought you could. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it's not going anywhere. It's very popular. New podcasts are being developed all the time. And I think at one point people thought, oh, the market's saturated. You can't start a podcast because nobody who's going to listen to my podcast. Well, you have your own audience who are interested in what you are doing individually. They don't really care about these 200 million other podcasts out there. They want to know about you. So it's not going anywhere, and there's opportunity for everyone. So don't think that just because there's a lot of them going on that it doesn't make it, there's not space for you, because there is. Even more important numbers. Okay, so this is interesting. 79% of all listeners listen to almost every episode. If you listen to a podcast that you follow, James, get off your phone. Just kidding.
It's supposed to be video.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. I don't care. Do you listen to, say you put on a podcast, do you listen to most of them every time, most of the time? Like an episode, you consume most of it. Like most people
I go back
listen.
to the very first episode.
Okay, so you start at the beginning, like, so you're gonna, it's almost more evergreen because you're starting at the beginning. Like like a social media post lasts for like what, 45 minutes or something. But you know, there's people out there going back to the beginning because they want to be part of, I mean, it's like starting a new series on Netflix. You can't start at like episode 5. Yeah. You just can't, you know, so it's awesome. So a lot of people, and this is really interesting, 7 shows and up to, or 7 hours per week. Where else do you think people are getting that much content outside of television, right? The Netflix, but that's a lot. That's a lot of time in your people's ears. 81% of podcast listeners pay attention to ads. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I know, it's really high. It seems too high. And I like I said, I've done multiple searches for this. Huh?
It's really obnoxious to skip it.
It really is obnoxious. You know what? Maybe it's design. James said it's really obnoxious to skip through them for the digital folks. And it is, because maybe that's a design. Like you have to push it over and over and over to get through 3 minutes of ads, but you might as well just sit and, I don't know, wash the dishes or something.
I just want to make a comment.
Taylor has comments.
We're going to be the most annoying. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Feel free to kick him out. So I think it's interesting because I know on things like Udemy and stuff, when so many people pay for these courses and they sign up for these courses, and obviously we all have like great intentions of learning things, but only like 10% of people who purchase courses actually go through the whole course. So we will finish a podcast.
Oh yeah.
We won't finish a course that we paid for.
Right. That's interesting. Okay, so people on digital, if you didn't hear her, she said she's talking about Udemy, like the online platforms for courses and digital learning, and how we'll pay money to buy these courses, but we won't finish them, but we'll listen to an entire 7 hours worth of an ads, you know, on a podcast. And I don't know what that is. I don't know. It's some kind of do the science and research and then come back to me.
We'll figure it out and we'll create a podcast about it.
Let me ask you a question. Who in here is would consider themselves a course collector?
Can I say something really quick? I'm so sorry, but I have to say this. You can use Udemy for free with your library card.
Okay.
So stop paying for courses. Okay, carry on.
I hope
Sorry.
everybody heard that. Katie said you can use Udemy for free with your library card. What? Udemy. It's an online platform to host courses. Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
I don't know that part of it.
meet me later. We'll put it in the parking lot and we'll visit the parking lot. We can talk about it if you want. You know, we can. Taylor probably can educate you because she's all over it. Sounds like. Okay, so super cool, interesting, great conversation. 60% of podcast listeners have bought a product or service based on an ad they heard on a podcast. That's really high. Yeah, it's really high. I mean, let's think about like how direct and guided you're producing content for a very specific audience, and then they're interested in what you're buying. And you know, I mean, I think purchase that's a huge have bought. Yeah, it is. It is. Now, okay, don't get too excited. Yeah. Okay, because podcasting is not easy. It's simple. It's not easy. Okay, so I don't want to plant that seed in your head because a lot of people are like, oh, let's start practice. It's so easy. Yeah, we'll talk about the links of you know, exertion you can go to depending on your time frame that you have available, but there's a lot that goes with it. A lot of people talk about this. They think, oh, my business isn't cool enough. My topic isn't cool enough to have a podcast. So some pretty everyday topics, books and music. One podcast that I used to listen to frequently, they would read a how-to book or a self-improvement book, and then they would implement that in their own lives, and then they would basically talk about that book and how the progress, and like express their experiences about whatever, you know, 5-second rule or whatever hot book it is, you know, at the time, and they would talk about it and what the impact it had. So it was about books, but it was also about their experience and their lives and how it affected them and how it could affect others and how it could maybe other people could implement, and what they did like, what they didn't like, you know, it was really cool. So food, of course, you know, there's always all these simple food, makeup, beauty. We're not gonna read them all. Parenting, I could do more of those parenting ones. But the super niche topics are interesting. If you look at that list, nail art and design, It's pretty niche. The history of sneakers was by accident. There's actually a podcast that this guy just talks about sneakers. And people, I mean, there's some sneakerheads out there. They love it. They just, I mean, and can you imagine having, like, say, I don't even care, maybe even like 500 like serious sneakerheads listening to your podcast every week, at least for 80% of every episode. And like, you know, say you have a sneaker store. I mean, your sales would be crazy, right? One that I came across that was really interesting and super niche is for balding men and the struggles and the challenges they face and the motivation and, you know, the soft and squishy side of, you know, it's okay to, you know, be comfortable with yourself and your baldness. And it was really interesting because I'm like, you know, my husband's balding. It's like there's something for everybody. So that's why it's really cool. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. You are cool enough to have a podcast. Your business, if you're going to direct a guide into your business, we can pull something out of your business. You can focus on at least for, you know, 52 episodes a year. If you want to do weekly, you don't have to. We'll talk about that. Questions? Thoughts, ideas, anybody online? What is your favorite one? Sure. Okay. Are they having a chat in between each other?
Yes.
Does that not apply to me? Okay. It's cool. I just want to make sure that I'm not ignoring them. Hey, everybody, hope you're good. Okay. And if you have questions, drop them in there so I can answer them. I'd be happy to. Topic ideas. Okay. Who loves to see behind the scenes videos? Love it. I even would listen to a hairdresser talk about like the chemicals and like creating like different colorings and like all that. I don't know. I just think it's fascinating, the behind the scenes stuff. You know, every time like a photographer posts like a behind the scenes like 5-second clip, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's how it's done, you know. And there's shows that are built on allowing us to see the inside of whatever's going on in their business. There's always opportunity to share what's going on inside your business. Like even if it's like how you create an email campaign, you know, everybody does different deep dives into a certain topic and how-tos, industry stories. This one's a big one. So I used to work for a company called The Great Game of Business, and they teach an open book management system to other companies. And they started their podcast, and basically it's industry stories. It's all their people who practice this system and have had success and, you know, teaching employee owners to, you know, think and act like business people. And it's done really, really well. It's for their industry. People love it. They advertise their courses or their classes, their trainings here in Springfield, and they advertise their conference, and that's how that's part of their marketing picture. So industry stories, local's possible. My business is mostly local at this point. I mean, I have a local networking group, I have a local mastermind. I want to start talking about local businesswomen and their, you know, their impact on our community, things like that. So you could do a local podcast. Who follows one of the local food? I think that there is a local food podcast, but they also have a lot of local food Instagrams about restaurants in town. I see opportunity all the time. I'm like, somebody, you really should just talk about all the Italian places in town or something like that. Anyway, so lots of things you could do and figure out like a timeline of, or not timeline, like a plan of topics that you can pull out from your industry. Lots of great. Okay. The tip of the marketing iceberg, I like to call podcasts the tip of the marketing iceberg, and there's a good reason. A lot of people think that, like, you know, you should start with an email campaign, or you should start with a video situation, or you can start with, you know, there's lots of ways to create a marketing funnel. But the way I like to look at it is creating your podcast, because it filters out. If you're recording audio content and you're recording yourself while you're recording the audio content, so there's a lot of podcasts that live in YouTube, and actually I think like 45 and above, they consume their podcasts via YouTube. They don't use Apple Podcasts or other, you know, Spotify or whatever. They go to YouTube. So there's opportunity there. There's an extra, you know, marketing opportunity. Written content. So whatever you record, there are services out there that will transcribe whatever you say. You can, you know, pay somebody a very small fee to edit it, make sure everything comes out right. You can slap that on a blog. Okay. You can link your video to your YouTube, to your website, on your blog, or your website page, whatever, to your Facebook, all those things. And then you have social media content there. You can take out small clips of what you said on your podcast and use them as opportunities to market your business in all these different platforms. So that's why I believe that there's just, I mean, there's the audio content above, you know, that's what you see, that's what you're driving, but there's so many other pieces that can fall into based on your bandwidth. Okay, this gets real hairy. There's a lot there. There's a lot going on there. So why should you start a podcast for your small business? I think there's a lot of reasons. You can build a brand awareness. So sometimes the ROI isn't necessarily a dollar figure. It's more about creating authority for your brand. People know you. They're starting to understand, like, oh my gosh, she's talking about this every week. She must know her stuff. And even if you have guests, like, okay, this person or this, this person is interested or understands what's going on because they're asking advice from other people in the industry. So there's lots of ways you can create good brand awareness, and you instantly become a thought leader, whether you know what you're talking about or not. Like, if you have enough wherewithal to actually create a podcast, I feel like a lot of people will look at you like you know what you're talking about, thought leader. And you can inform and engage. We already kind of talked about why I love podcasts, because it's just a more intimate connection with your audience. Super cool. Questions about that? I'm going kind of fast. I don't want to go over an hour. I got an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, connect on a deeper level. Sorry. We kind of already skimmed the surface of this, but when your client hears the voice behind the brand, it gives that brand a human element, And a lot of times when I have sponsors that help me with my events locally, I like to put their picture with their logo and say, there is a person running this business. So when you get behind your keyboard, you warrior, and you want to mash them for a mistake or something that happened in their business, remember, they're human people. And that really helps you just gives your brand an entire way to connect deeper. A deeper understanding of what your company is all about. I mean, you can say a lot, and that's another thing you should probably look out for. You got to kind of set your values based on what you're going to be sharing externally on a podcast, because there's a lot of things that you could go south. You just got to be careful, especially in this world's climate, in terms of, things we say. Probably said a few things that might get me in trouble. I don't know. I did okay. I haven't dropped any swear words.
No, not at all.
I also own the domain. My last name's Potts. I own the domain swearypots.com because I was like, because I swear a lot. I love swear a little. Okay. Questions? Anybody else? Questions? We got to get charged up. Anybody online?
No questions
We're
yet.
good. Okay, awesome. Okay, so convenience, all of this stuff. Oh yeah, reasons why you should start a podcast. Okay, so you can meet people where they are. This is a big one. Like, I'm not always driving by a billboard on I-44, but I might be listening to my radio, and I might be listening to your podcast. So there's opportunity to meet me whatever I'm doing. Maybe I'm washing dishes. I'm not watching TV, but I'm listening to NPR probably, but maybe I'm listening to a podcast and I have an opportunity to meet me. You guys, they can meet me where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I like to do things I want to do when I want to do them. So nice that you can meet there. Oh yeah, we just talked about it. Makes it easy for me to consume your content. If I have something that's audible, that's in my packet that I take everywhere, long flights, on the beach, whatever, there's always opportunity for me to consume it. Batch, record, and schedule. This is big. Okay, so the convenience piece of being able to sit down for let's say if you had a whole day, I'm going to record this month's episodes. Say it's going to take me 5 hours. I'm going to get all these episodes recorded, and then I'm going to batch them. I'm going to send it to my editor. He's going to do all the things, and I'm going to get the content, and it's all going to be scheduled. Super nice. I always encourage people to hire as much as you can, because if you want to do it right, you're going to need some help usually. Well, if you wanted, there's no right or wrong, but if you wanted to really serve your business as a marketing tool, there's things that you should be doing. Yeah, and it's minimal time and money investment. It also really helps to energize your marketing strategy. How many of you sit around and think about your small business or your, and think about, what am I going to do this month to market my business? Like, how do I get people to listen to me? That sort of thing. So you can definitely plan that out, think about it in a new way. Maybe you do a panel with 3 of your previous clients. They talk about why they loved it, whatever you did for them. There's the opportunity to take some of the pressure off yourself with an interview. You don't have to just do a solo episode. You can bring somebody in. tell me about your experience with XYZ. Kind of takes the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to know all the answers. It's a new way to do it. If you haven't already been doing a podcast, it's, you know, don't you think your clients would be super interested in to hear you start doing something like this, you know, and attract new leads? I mean, there's all types of ways you can get this in front of people via email or whatever. And if that's not convincing enough, it's fine. I wasn't really sure what I put there. It's been a while. I did look at this today. So I've asked this question before in my Facebook group, like, what is one thing you could talk about for like 30 minutes, unscripted, unscripted for 30 minutes with like no problems. And that's what this is. You get to do that over and over again. I think I need my audience to hear this today. And I'm going to tell them about it, and we'll see how it goes. But, and you know a lot about your business. It's interesting because I think as business owners, a lot of times, and even as even if somebody who's interested in a hobby, I think we underestimate how much we know about those things. Like, I mean, wrestling, I know you, James, talked about wrestling. You're a pro, like you understand things. You can probably talk for hours. And, you know, when it comes to podcasting, it doesn't have to be an hour episode. There's long format, the Tim Ferrisses, you know, the Tony Robbins, sometimes they get into 3 or 4 hours. And what's his name? The big guy, the one that I don't really care about. He moved to Spotify. Yeah, that guy. I don't like that guy. I don't care if that gets me in trouble. Anyway, I mean, he's fine, whatever. If you enjoy him, great. But anyway, there's long format podcasts, and there's ones that are like 15 minutes. And there's actually one that I listen to. It's called the Motivational Monday or something. And it's like a 5-minute deal every Monday. Motivational, 5 minutes. Great, perfect, fantastic. I got what I needed. Anyway, okay, let's move on. So what's it take? How many of you kind of have an understanding of what it might take to record a good podcast? That guy, you've been doing some. Eden's been doing some already, kind of video, audio content. You said you are new, and so you probably have new to that. New to that.
Definitely not new, but
Not new. New to podcasting. Well, I didn't want to say you were a virgin. I didn't feel comfortable. Okay. Podcasting virgin. Yes, I do.
21-year-old podcast.
Yeah. I wish you guys did that.
That's my mom.
Oh, I didn't know this was your mom. Okay, this is Aries' mom. Well, I'm glad you're here because I think about your business. I think people would find it very interesting now that I know who you are. So there's a lot of things I think people would.
Now, which one? We go?
All of them.
Or the repurpose?
I both of those. Community gardening, all those things. Like, honestly, there's a lot of opportunity there. My visionary brain's like, ding, 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 ding. So yeah, welcome to the podcast. Okay, now there's a mom in here, crap. I've got a really lot in my mouth. Okay. Okay, so what's it take? Okay, so there's a lot involved, and it could be as little, it depends. It depends on really how much it's going to take. Depends on you, depends on your time, depends on your understanding of just general tech, and that's okay if you don't have a huge understanding. I mean, that's okay. There's people you can pay to do this for you. I used to do it. People used to pay me to do it. But let's talk about this. This is a lot of text, so read it on your own, but we'll kind of go through here a little bit. You can do it all DIY. Okay, let's talk about this first big box right now. All DIY. You can buy your own equipment. You can record and edit all your own episodes. If I just want to mention this, I have a lot of editor friends. It takes about 20 minutes. No, it takes an hour, sorry. About an hour to edit every 20 minutes of audio. And I say that because I'm an audio snob. And I will tell you that if I hear somebody have an audio, they sound like they're in a tunnel or I can't hear what they're saying. Like, no, I don't have time for that. There's way too much good content. And that's the other piece. You've got to have good audio quality out there because there's so much opportunity out there. People can just bing, bing, bing all over the place. If you're not providing good quality ear candy for them, they're out. They'll go find the next thing they want to listen to. You could post your own episodes. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but platforms out there make it really easy. Hosting platforms make it really easy to just get it out there. You can manage your own marketing, you can do all of it, graphics, all of it. A lot of time. Okay, a lot of time. But if you have it, go for it. Fantastic. Or you could take some of the pieces out and just pick and choose whatever. But this is like if you want to do all the basic DIY. So you could use your headphones and an iPad. Like when I talk about buying your own equipment, I'm talking about recording, like big dimensional lights. I can't think of it. I used to know the words for it. Yeah, omnidirectional, all the whatever. I have a Shure. That's all I know. Mine's a Shure. I love it. So anyways, you could buy big $300 microphones. You could buy the padding for your room. You can set up yourself an audio recording session. That's all out DIY. That's what I mean. But basic DIY is an iPad and a pair of headphones that's attached to your iPad. And you could just create a post and say, here's my path. Here's an Anchor. Anchor.fm. That is a hosting platform. You could just, they basically have all in one. You can edit it in that platform. You can host it there. You can do all the things, and they can actually, I think they actually have where you can create an audiogram, which is basically just a graphic with a little bit of audio and a ziggly line, that you can share in social media. And you can just do minimal DIY marketing. Maybe send out a little email every week to let everybody know it's out there, but your marketing will reflect your listenership. Okay, half and half, record all your content, hire an audio editor. That's what I would suggest, because that way it's good. Audio, post your own episodes, hire somebody else to do social media. So you can kind of pick and choose, like I said, where you want to pay or where you don't want to do. And, there's opportunity there too to kind of, and hire a pro. There's companies that you can pay them like a certain amount. I think $500 is probably the least amount I've seen. The lowest amount to do like a 2-episode monthly situation where they do all of it. So yeah, you could basically just record your content and push it all, put in a shared file and be like, here you go. And they'll just pop it out. So you still have to have some sort of microphone. So I don't want to scare you. That's a lot. It's a lot. Again, you'll need a hosting platform. Do you remember this word RSS feed? I feel like our age group would understand that. It stands for real simple syndication. And back in the day, what? I thought you would like that. It was a compliment.
Very nice.
So an RSS feed used to, when you started podcasts, you had to convert I'm probably going to say some techie in here is going to be like, that's not right. But basically it was code that you had to embed in your website for the host. Yeah, thank you. Mackenzie's the tech one that's like, is she gonna say it wrong? No, she's pumping me up. Thank you. So anyways, you had to take that code, you had to embed it into your website, and then that gave the platform, the places we listen and we find it, the crawlers. Think about Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts as Google. And Google, we all know, has crawlers. So you put in a phrase and a term and it goes out there and it goes, okay, let me find all this stuff that you know about this thing and I'll bring it in and here it is. So the way an RSS feed works is, or Apple Podcast works is you put out this code, Apple Podcast goes out, crawls and pulls out all this stuff that says this podcast, right? It's pulling it all in and it puts it into this beautiful little podcast app in our hand that we can see. So that's how it works. So that's a pain in the butt. We don't have to do that anymore because there's platforms that are very user-friendly and they're basically just box you fill in and you upload your file and it's on its way. So luckily we're in a better time frame for that. Social media handles, you will need that kind of. If you want to use this podcast, some people do this specifically for a new podcast. Some people just wrap it up into their business. So you can just, so if you want like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of one right now, but you can create like your podcast name may not actually be connected to your business name, maybe something else to create a broader audience. And so that can be create its own name and own handle. And that's a whole other social media account to manage. So just FYI. You don't need to know how to code, like I said. You don't need to understand lots of techie details anymore. We just went through the techie details. You don't need to know that anymore, just out of your brain, because the platforms do it for you. Okay, how can you get started? We're finally there. Okay. First of all, you can scan this code. I hope it goes to the right thing. It used to be gate kept behind you had to give me your email address and all that stuff. I don't do that anymore. Yeah, people online can do that. It worked. Okay, good. It's a Trello board. My brain works really well in Trello. When I managed a bunch of podcasts, I would use Trello for all of my clients. They each had their own Trello board. And I like to see how things would just kind of move down from ideas to pre-production, post-production, or production, and then post-production. And so if you'll download this you can kind of see how things might flow for your own podcast, and kind of, you know, you have to make a copy of that board. If you jack it up, that's okay. I'll just change it, but it's not protected by, it's just a free one that's shared out there in the world. So copy that. And then utilize lots of really amazing resources. There's lots of resources you can, one of my favorites is this podcast by Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. He talks a lot about their online content, but he has lots of really great courses and trainings that are, I mean, if you want to actually go through the course, they're worth it. And he also has a big community of podcasters that are out there supporting each other with free information a lot too. And what did you say? Do you have something to say about podcasting and how you can do it for free anywhere?
Oh, I'll just plug that one more time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, you already said it?
I did at the beginning.
Oh, shoot. I wasn't listening to you.
Well, just in case you forgot,
In case you forgot.
podcasting equipment at the Midtown Carnegie branch of the library. That's the one by Central High School. That's where our makerspace is housed.
Yeah.
You can just call and make an appointment and they will show you how to
We
use
also
it.
have a laser cutter there, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna use
All
that.
kinds of cool stuff.
Like laser stuff. Okay. So this is not for James, but she podcasts Facebook group. Actually, I think there's views in there. But it's a free Facebook group. They host a podcasting conference every year. I'd really like to go someday, but it's a good place to ask questions and collaborate and learn. And we all know there's a university called YouTube, right? Okay, so don't forget about that. And then that is not anchor.com. It's FM. Dang it, thought I changed it. So anchor.fm is a podcast hosting platform service that I kind of talked about earlier. So you basically go in there and set up your own free account. I will say if you do a free account, they technically own all of your content. So be forewarned, if you decide to go with a free service, you're basically in the terms and conditions that you won't read. They're saying that they have ownership over all of the content you create with their platform. Okay, so be mindful of that. If you don't care, great, use it for free, easy peasy. All the editing stuff is in there, everything you need, fine. And of course, there's more features if you do paid situation, but the paid situation, that's your content. So you own that content. If you're paying them for a service, it's not their content anymore. I've just heard horror stories of people not realizing that and then moving to a new service and then not being able to technically own their it's copyrighted by that platform instead. So just protect yourself. Just know that. I try to spread that because I think a lot of people don't realize. Okay. I don't know how many more slides I have. Oh, okay, we're done. Dang, that was fast. Okay. Okay, so you can call or text me. I don't mind. Just tell me who you are. I'm totally fine giving out my phone number. You can email me if you have questions. I am not currently being paid to do podcasts, but I still love to talk about it. And I still love to educate if I can. People reach out sometimes to just talk shop, and that's totally fine. You're welcome to do that, especially because I know like 97% of you in here. But yeah. And we can hang out if you want to talk to me on Facebook or on the chat. We can do that too. Any questions? We want to just talk. I mean, I don't want to take up any time that we don't have to, but anybody have any extra questions or anything? Sometimes I like to workshop ideas. Yes. If you're into it. It's really fun. You do? You do too?
Yeah. I
okay,
kind of want to hear why people are here. Like,
yeah.
What are your ideas that brought you
here?
Okay,
so Katie wants to know why you're here. What is your idea for your podcast? And if you're gonna share with us, try to be as loud as you possibly can so the people online can hear us. And I'll try to repeat. Who wants to? Eden's like, let me speak. Will you shut up? Okay, Eden's here. Eden, why are you here?
It's my communication major coming out.
Yeah.
So you know, but our fellow entrepreneurs do not know that I have a current series based on connecting with local and or nationwide people that provide services and or products that would help my clients potentially as we work together. I'm a life coach, empowerment coach, and I provide one-on-one services and then also working online. So where I'm going with this is I currently have a series of videos.
Yep.
When you started talking about audio quality, I was a little Because
Just trying to make you get better. That's all. I'm just trying to help you.
I know.
You know.
Okay, so I currently host my series, my conversations. It's called Coffee and Conversation, and I would love to interview anyone that's open to it. But I use Zoom because I pay for Zoom and I want to use all the features because that seems logical, correct? However, Zoom, not to knock it too much, has technical difficulties with streaming quite often. And so the sound quality was not the best. So I did buy a microphone that travels with me literally everywhere I go. And it's fantastic and I love it. However, I do want better quality audio. And so my question is, do you have a suggestion for a platform? Because right now I'm strictly doing videos that I stream to Facebook, pull the recording, put it onto YouTube, and it goes out into the world. And then I will eventually pull the audio and create a podcast to put out into Spotify and all places. And I love doing these things. I love learning. So I want to continue doing that before I just hand it off to someone else. But I need a good platform to record, video and or sound consistently until I'm ready to take it to a different level.
Right. Are you using 2 mics now or just one still?
Just one, specifically because this is omnidirectional, but it's a decent plug and play is what.
Plug and play is good. 2 mics. You need 2 mics.
Okay.
And because omnidirectional is good and that is okay for now, like what you said. I mean, I'm just proud that you're doing it. But Zoom is set up to where you can record on 2 tracks. And actually Zoom isn't a terrible idea if you're using that as a recording option, because there is an opportunity to record 2 tracks. And it basically, like photographers say, like they want to get the best picture image in the shot and then they can edit it. So you're basically, if you're having 2 mics and 2 tracks, you're getting the best quality audio you can just out of your, and so if you were doing it that way, and then you eventually get to the point where you have an audio engineer like editing they're going to love you for that because they're going to be able to edit it a little bit easier with 2 tracks. If you're talking about trying to figure out, let me just make sure I'm not going down the wrong road. Are you asking me if you want a different place to stream or?
Well, yes and no, because currently, like I said, I use Zoom because I already paid for it. So I'm trying to be smart about that. But I need it to have good quality.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really your equipment.
Okay.
Yeah. The software, there are bugs, but I think it's probably there's other ways to stream. I mean, Anchor has options to stream dual streams as well. I'm not as familiar with that though, because I think most of the time that clients would just use Zoom. So yeah, I think what you're doing is probably for your current situation. Does anybody else have a thought?
Well, a lot of people I know, they will you're using Zoom, the app, right? Is that what you're saying?
On your computer?
Because if you get Zoom dictation.
Oh, that, yes,
Yeah,
those mics are good.
Plugging your mic straight into that.
Yeah.
They would still be able to hear you, but you would have clear audio that you can sync up with your video if you wanted to, so you can have clear audio. And a lot of people, they have the people they're interviewing record a separate audio track on their own computer and send it to them as well. So you have something clean to go along with it.
Yeah, those are probably, they run at $300 to $500, but they're a good piece of equipment. Yeah, you can probably get good used ones. Yeah, you can get good used one nowadays. James, everybody online, James is talking about it's actually called the Zoom, right?
Yeah, that's what I was confused.
I know. So Eden was talking about using Zoom on as a video chat service to record and collect your content. And James said that there is an option, there's like a piece of equipment that's called a Zoom and it's got like 2 mics. It looks really crazy.
It's a dictation machine.
Dictation. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I think I'll think about it. If anything pops up, I'll reach out to you, but I think that you're kind of doing it. If I have iWay, you'd be recording into like GarageBand or some kind of audible actual platform that's like created to record content. But you are usually in the same room with your person. Okay,
so you're gonna, well, that's the thing though. So right now it's, you know, I meet up with people or I do over Zoom. So that's why I wanted to use.
Yeah, I mean, really your best bet is to do a lot of prep for your interview, your guest. And there's a lot of things you can do to make sure they're set up for success and make sure they're giving you the right content, even if it's just making sure they don't use AirPods, because AirPods are wireless and then there's a delay and it's kind of fuzzy and the frequency is not great. But if they're using a plugged in mic set of Apple headphones, it's way better content. So yeah, there's little things you can do to like just prep them and say, please use a wired headphone set with mic attached. It doesn't have to be, you know, anything fancy. And that will help bring in that content. And if you want to, you'll have to Google it. I can't tell you how to do it, but if you can set up your Zoom to capture on 2 tracks, just start getting in the habit to set it up that way, because eventually as you grow your podcast, it'll be nice for the editor to do that. An editor can clean up a lot of that audio sometimes, but they can't, I mean, some of it they can't save. So I would be careful with your audio. Sure. All right. Thank you. Sorry I triggered you because
no, it's okay.
I really had, there was a podcast I think about all the time. It was a really cool idea about events and event coordination, and I do a lot of that. I was super excited, but the audio was awful. I just couldn't. So yeah. Okay. Who else has who wants to share their idea about their podcast? Caroline, you want to tell me?
Sure, I was going to add into that too. I have health coach. A lot of our health coaches are getting on the Clubhouse app right now, so that's kind of a popular thing. So we do a lot of lectures on there and interviews. A lot of coaches are also doing their own platforms on there. I haven't done it myself. I've just listened to several things, and actually, I've had trouble even getting my audio on my phone to work on that app. So I kind of need to figure out some stuff on my own. But yeah, they're kind of recording some of the chats that they do, and also we're storing those in their profiles. So
yeah, they're actually allowing to record.
Yeah,
now they used to not.
Yeah, because some of our stuff has been recorded and some of it's not. So yeah, some of the stuff, and everyone's all around the world. So we're trying to have all different time zones. So it's not recorded. And we're like on there for like 2 or 3 hours straight sometimes. And we're like, yeah, we got to catch this now.
Yeah, you got to collect all the content. Yeah. So what's your idea?
So yeah, so we have a lot of health coaches kind of going over to the audio apps right now. I'm still fairly new to my business. So I'm kind of still just working on the Facebook and Instagram stuff. A lot of what eventually, I don't want to do a lot of video work. You know, my face in it. So I want more audio. So I just want to kind of learn about, you know, what it takes to set it up and kind of what equipment you need. So
yeah. I mean, and if you're already kind of doing the audio platform. I used to love Clubhouse. It was short-lived for me, but I did play around with that. It was really fun. It was one of the first invitations, like
I just heard about it last year.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, it's not been around that long. And there was talk whenever it started that it was going to replace podcasting. They're all like, everybody's freaking out, but it goes fast. But there's still, clearly you're telling me there's still a lot of opportunity there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think when you're talking about not wanting to show your face too much, that's okay. Like you could even do a graphic. It's not, YouTube will frown on it a little bit. But if you did a graphic on YouTube with your audio track with it, that's a piece you could share. But do you have a topic like that you're going to focus on your podcast, or you're not really sure?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm just gathering some information.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll kind of see.
Yeah.
I know several of us will kind of be interviewing each other and
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So like not really talking about talking to clients, because that's probably like safe space, but like talking to other like coaches in the industry. Yeah. Talking about, situations or whatever. That's cool. Providing help. Anybody else want to share? I mean, we can wrap up. We're almost done.
I'm here because my business partner is a podcast addict.
Yeah.
They'd probably like to start a podcast.
I feel like you should probably have one anyway, James.
It's a matter of representation, and there's too many straight white dudes in the podcast realm, and so like
straight white.
So, legitimately, it's like if I'm going to start a podcast, I got to have more representation involved. Otherwise, it just gets kind of lost in the sea of straight white guys.
I appreciate and I commend you for having that thought process enough to even go there. I think that, I need to diversify. Diversity is good, right? But there's a lot of us straight white girls and they don't give shit. And they've been doing lots of podcasts about this. Honestly, like, don't let that stop you, because I don't think think it's interesting that you're having those thoughts, and that's awesome. But I don't think you're using it as a Oh. We got a couple life coaches here, so just yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I think you probably have the personality, right? I mean, I've seen your
I think what he's trying to say is that he wants to hear more voices. He's just using other things too.
Well, yeah, no, it's finding people like the topics I want to talk about. It's finding other people to bring into the conversation as opposed to just being
right.
And a couple of my buddies who
right. I think that's great.
Once talking about the conversation.
You know, it'd be kind of fun if you do like something about wrestling and talk to like all the like the females who are into it, because I remember I used to be into WWF and like everyone's like, what you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not like into it anymore, but I mean, I think it's still fun. I think it's still fun. I love it, but it was, you know, but I think, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. But I mean, I don't know what you're into, but that's interesting. Yeah, you have a place. Everybody has a place out there. We all have a spot. We can all have our voice. So I like that. Okay. What do you say?
I said, I'm sold.
I'm sold. Yeah, and I love it. I wish you would, you were quiet. You're very quiet. I'm interested in the equestrian like services, what your idea about your podcast might be. Like, what conversations are you having on your show
so far?
Well,
I haven't done very many, but
well, yeah, but I mean, just like your vision for your show. Are you interviewing like people you?
I would love to interview guests eventually. I've done horses my whole life, so like my last podcast, I was talking about these new things I learned about horses' eyesight and how they see the world differently than us. But I tied it into learning how to, and like, it was interesting for me because I learned about the horse's eyesight, and so it helped my training aspect to understand how my horse sees things. And it gave me like this massive amount of compassion for them because we assume they see things the way we see them. And so we train from our point of view. And I kind of tied it into, because mine's a lot about like self discovery of like, if I could understand myself better, I'd probably be a whole lot less judgmental and harsh on my inside. Yeah, more compassion for myself. You know, like so much negative talk that I'm trying to work on with myself. So a lot of mine, I talk about kind of my journey and very vulnerable and raw, but
yeah. Well, and I think because there's a lot of life coaches in here and a lot of like, yeah, I know I feel like what you would be doing behind you, not looking at you, but Passion House Project would be like talking to those folks who like, you know, it's interesting because I think we worry sometimes about interviewing people that use our services and that we might be exposing them or whatever. But I think a lot of people don't have, I mean, those folks who have utilized our services may never actually have an opportunity to use their voice in that way. And I think you'd be very surprised at how interested people would be to actually be on your show as somebody who has benefited from your services or your help.
And I think too with Passion House, because the clientele that you will be serving, it's kind of a personal aspect. So not a lot of them with their faces.
Right.
There,
no.
But they're okay with their story being told.
Yeah.
So I think that podcast is a great way to tell their stories without being too intrusive. And putting their faces.
And you could even have the audio engineer slightly alter their voice. It doesn't have to be weird or like, but it could be very protected. It wouldn't be hard. But yeah, I think it's awesome. I think you guys all like, just knowing what I know about everybody in here, I feel like there's a lot to be. Michelle hasn't said a word tonight, but I know there's a lot in that brain. She could say a lot of things. But yeah, I just encourage you to really think about it. Again, like I said, it's not easy. It's simple, the steps, but it's not an easy thing. So you can make it as complicated as you really want to. And not that making it complicated actually means that it's going to be successful, but the more effort and energy you put behind, of course, you're going to get, you get what you give, kind of thing. So I hope that makes sense. Oh yeah. I'm thinking about James' comment now because it's like everybody I listen to, most of them are really like, I don't mean to be like, they're all like chicks, like running online businesses. I'm like, I gotta diversify, man. I gotta get some new content in my ear holes. So yeah, interesting. Okay, awesome. Anything else? Anybody else? I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. I have a question. Yeah, one more question.
Did you Or do you know how to monetize?
Oh, yeah, so that's, we need another hour. Okay, so when we talked about earlier, and actually, you know, now that if I ever do this, if I do this again, I need to like do like a timeline of things on the screen so you can see it. Monetization, you really have to earn it, the opportunity to sell sometimes, if you think about it. If I turn on the first episode and all of a sudden I'm getting badgered with by my stuff, but I'm usually like, okay, I can tell what they're there for. So typically, and actually Pat Flynn, he was one of the resources I shared. He talks about usually 12 to 14 episodes before you're actually, you know, allowed to sell. Monetization, a lot of times people use podcasts to sell their own content, like your services. You know, and you can do ads placed inside of your episode. So that's one thing. I'm sure you've heard that. That's like the big one everybody does. It's usually, it takes some time to get sponsored ads. They look for like a media kit with all your listenership stats before they'll start throwing money at you. But there's opportunity there. There's platforms that are looking for, you know, specific niche podcasters that are doing certain things. And a lot of times, like, you know, even if you're talking about, you know, your audience may be small, like you're talking to balding men, which seems to be more and more these days, unfortunately, but like, you know, like there's still a lot of people there who are looking for services and things in that industry. So they look for niche places to sell like that, but it takes some time. But I always try to tell people, and I try to encourage you to market your own services with that eventually. And just, you know, say, oh, you know, I'm starting a new mastermind and I would love you to apply, or I'm starting a new group program, or I'm, you know, I'm selling this digital product. Maybe you have like a checklist for like, you know, whatever. That's a good way to do it. So that's usually the dollars come from your own services and products. It's almost like a giant commercial. But it was with you give, and then you get a little, you know, you give more than you, yeah. And that's a lot of times how it goes. Okay. All right, it's a wrap.
Got one more.
Okay.
Whether it's been a while since I've looked at kind of music options for videos.
Oh yeah.
And so what are some good kind of options to kind of browse music to use on your?
Oh man, YouTube. YouTube has tons of free, royalty-free. Okay, what is it, James? You should know this. I feel like you should know this. It's called like YouTube Music or something. I think it's like there's like a platform, and like you can go and you go dig around on YouTube. I have to think about it. If I think of it, when I'm going to think of it driving home, but there's tons of free, royalty-free and free music. What
Would the editor do that for you, or the podcast manager?
Yeah, they could. You could do it yourself, but depending on how technical you can. And Anchor makes it really easy because they have a web or a browser-based like editing thing that makes it simple. That's why I talk a lot about Anchor, because a lot of times people want to start themselves and do it all. But the editors, of course, can make it awesome. And I mean, you can too. You can make it awesome yourself. But also Ben Sound and sound.com. There's a bunch of free, royalty-free ones, and they're actually a little bit more hipper than the free YouTube ones. But there's lots of places that you can get royalty-free music and just buy it.
Yeah.
It was like a decade ago, but it's been so long.
Yeah, there's lots of that.
That file is very much.
Yeah, I can't remember the website, but if you search royalty free, there's websites where you can buy the rights for like $7. And
Man,
somebody else will be using it.
you know that you said that there's another resource that you can actually, it's for podcasts. You can get an intro recorded, like professional video artist, and they'll put it all together. And it's like $100 and it's done. Yeah, I can't remember what the website is. I mean, if you Google it, I'm sure. But yeah, there's lots of opportunity there. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you. You were awesome.
Thank you. Yay!